friends, it is me, Dr. D. It's good to be back. Good to see y'all. So welcome to all the new subscribers. I know it's been a little while since I've been on here, and I'll actually talk about that in this video. But welcome to all the new family. I'm Dr. D. I am the owner of Come Alive Coaching and Transformative Services. I am also the servant that the Lord has entrusted with this ministry, Psych and Spirit. So if you haven't yet, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the YouTube stuff that gets the algorithms all happy and percolating. And we're going to go ahead and jump in. So today I have a word. For those of you who are newer to the channel, you haven't heard me say this before, but I absolutely only come up here when the Lord tells me to. And so there's been a little bit of a lag between the last video and this video. And there's a reason why I'm going to share that today. But I do hope that this word will land with everyone that it is intended to, everyone that the Lord has me here to speak to today. It may or may not be your season for this word, and that is okay. I'm pretty sure that it is, though, if you've made it here today. But just, again, as always, with every word, take it to the Lord. Check in with him. I am but a messenger, right? So let's go ahead and jump in. So today, the title of the video is I Have Made You King. Don't despise the pasture. Okay, so again, it's I have made you king. Don't despise the pasture. And I know for a fact that God is using David, right, as a reference. David was appointed king, and then he went right back to the pasture to tend to those sheep, and it didn't seem like it made any sense, right? So we're going to talk about that today. So God really only uses me to release things so far on this channel that have impacted my own life that I can actually speak to, because not just, head knowledge, book knowledge, but because he's walked me through some stuff. So when I come here to talk to you about it, he knows that he can trust me to do so because him and I have dealt with that. All right, so today I want to tell you a quick little example of what's going on with this word. I want to give you 3 things that God asked me to share with you, a final thought, and then we'll hop off. So this word is really for anybody who has been in a place where you feel like, you know what, God, I think I've got my marching orders from you. I think I understand what you have called me to do, or at least the next step, right? Like, we rarely have the entirety of God's plan for our lives, but you might be like, I feel like I've got the next step, but things don't look quite right. I don't understand what is going on, because I thought you told me this, I took that step and nothing's happening, or it feels dry, or it feels like a wilderness and all that kind of stuff. So if that's something that you've been struggling with or thinking about, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it today. So I want to share a little story about my own life, about what's been going on with me recently. And then I want to share with you the 3 things that God really extracted from that experience that he wants me to share with you. And then, like I said, I'll leave a final thought. So about a year ago, God really gave me my marching orders to get on YouTube. And I immediately and instantly was like, immediately no, thank you, right? It's not my jam. It's not my vibe. It's not what I'm interested in, God. I like to be behind the scenes. I like to do, other types of things, and just no thanks. But because I love God and because I do what he says to the best of my ability, I was like, fine, kind of begrudgingly, right? So at that point, I knew what God had called me to do. I knew that he wanted me to work with churches. I knew that he wanted me to be a mental health consultant, for the body of Christ and all those good things. So I didn't quite see how he gave me this vision, and I won't go into the fullness of it, but this vision that was not YouTube, and then was like, now get on YouTube. I'm like, that feels like, that to me, it doesn't fit, and I don't understand what you're doing here, and I don't want to be on YouTube, right? But I went because that's what he told me. So during the season, God had me releasing words, probably about weekly, sometimes 2 times a week, sometimes every 2 weeks, something like that, but a pretty regular interval. And what was really going on at that point is he was wanting to see what I, listen to him, right? Would I humble myself and do what he asked? But he was also using YouTube, this platform, as a training ground for me. And he still is, right? As a pasture, so to speak. And so he wanted to see, is she going to be faithful to me? Is she going to do things that she doesn't want to do? Is she going to release words that I give her? Is she going to wake up in the middle of the night when I stir her spirit and write these things down to share with the body, right? Is she going to listen to these nudges when really there's other things that she would rather do? And so he was testing me, he was grooming me, he was making me. And then when I finally got in the groove of the YouTube videos and I was like, okay, God, this is kind of enjoyable. I see what you're doing. I enjoy sharing the words that you have for your children. Great. Then like last month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I don't know how long ago, a little while ago, he was like, now stop, rest. And I was like, what? Like, so what was actually going on there was during that time, I was doing what God asked me to do. I was serving his children. I was allowing him to groom me, to prune me, to do all of these different things. And with YouTube in particular, there's an interesting thing that happens. YouTube more or less measures your reach, your impact, right? By how many likes, how many subscribes, how many blah, 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 all that good stuff. And so without realizing it, I had begun to be like, okay, God, well, I'm doing what you told me to do. Where is the fruit? Not for the sake of having people, but if this is really what you told me to do, I want to make sure I'm right on the right track, right? So we do it all the time. If God tells us to get a new job, we're like, okay, God, I took the job you said, where's the promotion, right? If this is the path you have, or okay, God, I joined the church you said, I'm ready to get aligned with that ministry. When is that going to happen? Or okay, God, I gave the money that you said, where is the pressed down, shaken together, running over? Where's the increase? How do I know that I'm doing exactly what you told me to do, right? And so when God called me to rest, I was really like, well, what's going to come of the channel then? So for about a year, just to give you some context, I've been pouring out, I've been doing the best that I can to listen to God, to follow his word, to release the words that he has, and all of those good things. And within that year, there has been maybe a growth of, 10 subscribers, 5 subscribers, something like that, which was fine, right? Because I'm like, God, I'm going to do what you said. But one, the channel is not growing very quickly, and that's fine. But, I want to make sure I'm on the right track. It's not growing very quickly. So what's going to happen if you call me to rest, if you call me to step away from the channel? And then, how am I going to know that I'm doing what you call me to do if I'm not doing what I think you called me to do, right? There was some confusion. So God said rest, and I said, yes, sir. All right, okay. As you can hear, I probably sound like a little scratchy and things I've been dealing with, just some recovery and things like that. So God knew exactly what was coming. He knew why he called me to rest. I didn't know. But the interesting thing is during this time of rest, when he said, just relax, talk with me, lean on me, let me love on you. I've got you. He actually taught me an incredible lesson. So the first thing is where I had been toiling and I had been working, doing something that felt like a little stagnant in terms of growth that I could see, incredibly fruitful spiritually, but what felt stagnant in terms of growth that I could see. While I rested, what actually happened was God took that thing that had grown by maybe 5, 10 people all year. And again, that's not the point, but it's a metric that we can use as an example for this word. And he grew the channel by like 60 people or something like that in a month, right? And so that is really incredible. Again, not the point. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying this channel is here to grow, 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 grow. What I'm saying is God taught me quite a few things that he wanted me to come and share with his children who are also currently in the pasture, who've been given a step, who've been called to do something. And with their natural eyes, they're like, God, I don't see that this is fruitful, but I love you and I'm going to keep doing what I can. But I'm not quite sure what we're doing together here, right? I'm not quite sure. So he wanted me to give you a few things using that example. All right. So again, God was testing me. Is she going to do what I said? Is she going to continue to move with me? Is she going to stay in step with me even when it doesn't make sense to her natural mind? And so if that's where you find yourself, he wanted me to share just a few things with you today. All right. So the first one is that he has called you. Okay. He has unequivocally, unapologetically, right, called you to do his will. And so if he's called you to that business, if he's called you to that relationship, he's called you to that ministry assignment, he's called you to that friendship, whatever it is, whatever it feels like, God, I think this was the step, but I don't see any change in the physical and the natural. No, without a doubt, he has called you, right? Just like King David, he was anointed king, he was called, and he was sent right back into the pasture, right back to the small things, to the things that didn't seem quite to line up with a kingship. God, what are you doing here? And nothing seems to be changing, right? David went right back to those same sheep, that same pasture, those same bears or whatever else, right, that was going on out there. And it didn't seem to be fruitful. So the first thing is know that he's called you and don't lose heart. Don't lose faith, right? Because again, no matter what it looks like in the natural, he is absolutely 100% certainly doing a ton in the spiritual to develop you, to grow you, to incline your ear to hear him, to teach you how to follow him, and to really reinforce the work that he has for you. But consider it a training ground. Know that the pasture is at times a training ground and don't despise it, right? The second thing is God works differently. So break your mindset of what the world teaches you. So for example, the YouTube example, right? The world teaches you grind, hustle, go, move, do, right? There'll be folks on YouTube who say, release a video every single day, right? Release a short, do this, use these keywords and all of this stuff to force growth, to force movement or whatever, right? And that's the same thing that happens in the world. If God called you to minister, God called you to a business, he called you to a relationship, he called you to a job, whatever it is, the world will quickly kind of get in your ear and say, force it, push, right? Toil, it's all in your hands. Make it happen. These are some tips, some techniques, some cheat codes, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Again, I'm not saying that the promises of the Lord don't at times require work, and they don't at times require effort. Oftentimes they do, right? God partners with us in the natural. But I do want to remind you that ultimately it is up to God. He gives the steps. He gives the marching orders. He also gives the increase, right? He gives you the ability to plant the seeds, absolutely, and he gives you the strength to steward them, but he brings the increase. And so again, if you're in a place and it feels like, God, I'm trying to take the steps that you have for me, it's feeling stagnant, I don't know that it's moving, know that God is bringing the increase, right? Know that that is up to him. He told me to rest, and it felt completely counter to what I thought he previously told me to do, which was to work. And so I'm like, God, well, what do you mean? Like, you called me to this. I finally got used to it. I'm doing what you said. And now you say rest. What does that mean? It means rest, right? So a lot of times in the pasture, God will reinforce and teach you how to rely on biblical principles and biblical truths, right? He gives rest to those that he loves, right? We don't have to worry. We bring everything to him. He has our plans, right? And we follow the steps, all those different things. He's teaching you to truly live into his word, because there are so many biblical promises that are attached to being obedient. First and foremost, just the relationship with him, right? So we're not being obedient to get things, but he is teaching us how to commune truly with him. And then the third thing is call the pasture experience what God does. Call it what he calls it, right? So often we get frustrated. We're like, God, I've been toiling for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Nothing's changing. I don't see the increase. Where's the job? Where's the house? Where's the physical, tangible stuff to prove that I'm on the right track? And so we'll get frustrated and we'll start to call the experience. We'll start to call what is going on janky, right? This is janky. Oh, child, like what's going on? We start to talk down on it. We just get frustrated. And so I encourage you today, if you're in a place where it feels like things really aren't moving, I don't know what's going on, God. Lay claim, right? Lay claim to the fullness that God has for you. Call it what it is. Call it your pasture experience. Take the lessons. Take the training, take the growth, right? And notice that it is a beautiful experience. It is a beautiful thing that God is doing with you, that God is doing through you. And don't allow the enemy to trick you into talking down on it, into speaking poorly of it, into prematurely aborting the mission, right? Stay in the pasture with God as long as he deems it, right? And learn from him. So there was something God wanted me to release to you. He wanted me to share to you. All of this was it, of course, obviously the teaching. But there's a word in particular. And so I wrote it down, and I like to read exactly what God has told me to release, because he's God and I do what he says. And also because when he tells me something specifically, it's because it's for someone in particular. So I pray that this is confirmation for someone. But God says, I've made you king. Don't despise the pasture. Get to work focusing on me. right? Intimacy with me and the work that I have for you. I'm developing things in you by my hand, right? Pay attention to it and notice it. Learn to trust me and rely on me, even when it makes no sense, right? Don't despise the pasture. So I pray that this blesses you. I love you all so much. I'm so glad to be back. I don't know when I'll be back again, whenever God says so. But right now has me kind of resting and recovering and all of that good stuff. So please feel free to keep your sis in prayer. But I love you all. I had to get on here today and release this word. And I pray that it blesses you. Have a good day, everyone. And I will see you next time.